Okay. So I start the recording. Hello, Cătălin. Welcome. Thank you for coming. So mainly I will present you the system for detecting disinformation that I've built for my research. And the goal of this session is that the system to learn from you as an expert in disinformation as much as possible. So please, at every step, just think out loud. Let me know what you think. But before this, could you please introduce yourself in 1 or 2 sentences and tell us what is your connection to disinformation?
Okay, I'm Cătălin Gomboș. I've been a journalist for many years. I have to count them. It's more than 25 years, or about 25 years. For 10 years now, I became interested in the fake news and disinformation phenomena. And for since late 2020, I'm chief editor of a website, a platform that is focused on debunking fake news and disinformation, especially in Romania and the region we are in, Eastern Europe, Central Europe, the former Soviet countries. So in terms of our weekly activity, we cover, or daily activity, we cover fake news that is aimed at Ukraine, the Republic of Moldova, and Romania. And these countries, because we have teams there, and for obvious reasons in terms of Ukraine, because the big wave of fake news and disinformation that we are facing these days started more or less around the time Russia first attacked Ukraine in back in 2014. And then, of course, we had another huge wave during the pandemic. Before that, but also connected, you had the migrant crisis. And then when the war in Ukraine started, you had all this, let's say, amplified all this phenomenon, which is not only connected, and we're not only covering the war in Ukraine. Basically, it's some sort of renewed Cold War between not only Russia and a number of, let's say, autocracies and illiberal democracies against the liberal democracies in the West. So it's not only connected to the Ukraine, it goes, I don't know, let's say, global warming and climate changes are also targeted by disinformation for many years.
Yeah. Thank you, Cătălin. And what I would also like to add is how much of the ideas that I've come up with are connected to how your organization deals with disinformation in the forms of narratives. So this has been shaping my work a lot, your perspective, and also the fact that we also used your data for training the system. Now I will show you the system. I will share my screen for a bit. So the session has 3 parts. Just 1 second. This one. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, but it's very small. I'll have to.
Okay. So then I will.
Okay, now I can see.
Okay, so the session has 3 parts. The first part is where the system is not sure about something, and it asks you as a journalist to help the system. The second part is you trying out the limits of the system, and the last part is just some 3 thoughts and a Google form which I would ask you to complete after. about what do you think about everything. So I will start with the first part, which is you helping the system. And
Okay, I have a small note or observation about that. Um, this is this first part. Let's say draws on more on intuition or on our background, because basically what we do when we debunk fake news, it's fact checking. So something feels like fake news, or we recognize some narratives. This is the easiest part, when we recognize some narratives, but nonetheless we have to check it. So this would be first glance. I may be right or I may be wrong.
yeah, that's very good because this system is designed to scan the web, okay, and bring you like what looks like disinformation. It does not actually know what is disinformation and what is not, but it's a tool for journalists to find relevant possible disinformation, so they can focus on finding them. So of
Okay.
course it's at first sight. So I will pretend that I'm the journalist just to show you how I'm thinking about. So this is the first thing. So Trump says Crimea will stay with Russia as he seeks to end the war in Ukraine. So the system predicted this as disinformation because it considers this text to be part of the narrative Crimea will remain under Russian control. Now, me as a journalist, I can say, oh, this is not disinformation, this is true. Why did the system fail to see that this is true? And I would look into the internal structure. And when I look into the internal structure, I can see that the narrative, it found this narrative because it has these two fake news. Mike Pompeo, Ukraine has lost Crimea forever, or Crimea is lost. But the system failed because this is not the true narrative, okay? The true narrative is that Pompeo said that Crimea will remain under Russian control. So this is why the system failed, okay? Or maybe this is not it, and I just look into the bigger narrative, which is Crimea is legitimately part of Russia, okay? And this narrative, Crimea will remain under Russian control, I just delete it because it's not a fake narrative. So whenever the system identifies a text which falls under this narrative, it should not mark it as disinformation. So we just delete the narrative. Or maybe I cannot correct the internal system and I just say, okay, this is true, and I will mark it as being true. It's not disinformation. Or the system did right and this element is correct, no change needed. So let me just recap this. So you can edit or correct the narrative, the disinformation narrative. You can remove the narrative because it's not a disinformation narrative, because when it says disinformation, it tells you why. Mark it as the opposing category, or just say the element is correct, no change needed. Yes, Cătălin, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. In order to see if this title is true or not, you have to check. If Trump did say that, uh, it's not a fake news. It is just a statement or an analysis from an actor. So you cannot use that as a fake news. What you said about later that Crimea is Russian, yes, that's debatable, and that can be analyzed as a fake news or actually a fake narrative, not a fake news. But this, in terms of news, it is very easy. You have to check it. Did Trump say that or not?
Okay.
Or another way to look at it is that Crimea will stay with Russia in the sense that Ukraine can never recover that. And also this is debatable because it depends a lot of what's happening on the ground. Fake news would be the UN said Crimea is Russian, or Trump said that, because we're talking about President Trump, Crimea is Russian. The United States recognized Crimea as part of Russian, because what Russia wants to do is to get an acknowledgement of the legitimacy of its claims, which are illegitimate. No.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
understandable.
Yeah.
Okay, so
This is not a disinformation. We have to check if Trump said that,
okay.
but we can start a discussion from that.
Okay, so we just ignore this one, the first one.
No, it's just a title, because if you read the news, you have you have to go inside the news, because you may have more details. Why did Trump say that? Because the Ukraine doesn't have the capacity to conquer Crimea, which is correct now, or because Ukraine has no claim on Crimea, which is not correct, or because Crimea would be recognized as part of the Russian Federation, which is at most debatable, because the international community as a whole did not recognize the annexation of Crimea. So just the title cannot say if it's a fake news or disinformation.
Okay, but that means for us that we won't penalize the algorithm for flagging this as disinformation, and we won't enforce it, right? We just move to the next element.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so a new union of journalists for independent media established in Finland. This was marked as by the algorithm as being true because it's not part of any disinformation narrative. Is this correct?
Once again, we have to read the article. The title doesn't say anything, but among the let's say the fake news promoting environment, and or the so-called let's say alternative media, like I don't know, Breitbart, or and that's the most famous international example. They are claiming that they are independent media because they are positioning themselves as anti-system media. So they are the independent ones that are not taking the narratives that are fed to the rest of us gullible people in the world. At the same time, if you use the context of a country like Romania, or not only Romania, countries where the media is, I don't know, subject to a more or less degree of control from different actors, commercial or political, then independent media has the exactly opposite meaning, is the media that is saying the truth. In the case of Finland, I would expect that because it's a democracy, when they say a new union of journalists established for an independent media, these are the guys that are dealing with disinformation, fake news, conspiracy theories. So, given the background, the algorithm might have been right, but again, I have to read the article.
Okay.
or to see his reasons for doing that, because I'm sure this fake news media, not in the sense President Trump is calling fake
Yeah.
news media, not the mainstream media, but this so-called media that is claiming to be media, but actually spreading disinformation, this whole toxic ecosystem, is calling itself independent. And I would see a reason why in a country like Finland, which I expect would have an organized media, these guys will say, okay, we are something else. We are independent and we have to organize ourselves.
Okay. Let me go to the second part of the meeting, where you can test like with different text the capabilities of the system, and I will give you like an example here, like the EU is forcing people to eat insects. Okay. And now it will take a bit of time. As I told you, this has to go on a different server for the model to run.
Okay.
And
This is very good because we covered this fake news on Veridica, so
with
I'm
the
familiar with it.
EU forcing people to eat insects. Is it? Yeah, it's still running. Okay, so the system said that the predicted label is disinformation because it's part of the narrative. People are being coerced into consuming insects. And
So it's correct.
if we look at the
He's right.
internal structure, we see that it has two fake news from you or from EU versus Disinfo. Global elites force people to eat insects, and British government funds propaganda to force people into eating insects. So it found that this is a disinformation narrative, and this is part of this disinformation narrative.
Okay. Let's try another one because this is quite fresh. We published it on Veridica today. The EU is forcing people with big homes. No, without big homes. It's forcing people to take migrants in their homes.
Okay. And now we need to wait. Okay, so predicted label is disinformation, and it's part of the narrative. A large group of migrants is planning to enter the EU, and if we look into the internal structure, we see that it's put it here with the large group of migrants planning to enter the EU, and it has a lot of fake news about migrants, and it's part of the bigger narrative. Migrant arrivals are causing problems for the EU. So this is the verdict.
Yeah, he got the answer right, but the background is not necessarily right. This is just a little bit of context. And I don't have it yet in English, but it will be in English by tomorrow. How we debunked that fake news.
It's part of a different narrative, so it did not find the correct narrative, right? This is the problem.
Yeah, because it's connected also to Romania. If you check on our website, it's just the fake news we published today. Go a bit down,
Oh, sorry.
a bit more, a bit more. You'll see Diana Shoshaka. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the.
Oh, she said this. Okay. Okay. And you said that it's part of. Okay, so it's about the EU and the maximum.
Yeah, exactly. A maximum space that a family or person can occupy, which this is not regulated neither by EU or Romanian law. The opposite is regulated, the minimum space, the decent living.
Okay, let's try with another one. Let's try some more. Let's see how it behaves on something else.
Let's see something that we did. Oh, the Romania's prime minister, uh, Ilie Boloșan, together with former Secret Service official, let's not give his name, make it a bit confusing, were covering organ trafficking, organs.
Or organ. Okay, let's give it a try and see what the system has to say. Sometimes here, as the EU is forcing people to take migrants in their homes, the system will flag it even if it will find like a similar narrative like this with the migrants, and like the migrants are going to invade your home, and so it also tracks this
No, no,
somehow
he was.
closer.
I mean, the system was smart about that because it recognized that there might be a narrative. It didn't prove it, but it immediately recognized that. I sent you
Okay,
for the
so
latest inquiry how we debunked it.
okay. So here is how you can I move it to English?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Here is how you debunked it. Organ trafficking activities were carried out in care homes in Bihor. Okay. So this is something that this is your article.
Yeah.
And the system predicted it as disinformation. It put
Okay.
it under the narrative Ukraine is involved in organ harvesting. I think it found like Ilie Bolojan too close to Ukraine, and it said Ukraine is involved in organ harvesting. If you look at the internal structure, so you see it put it Ukraine is involved in organ harvesting, and it's part of the bigger. This is So it seems like we have internally a pretty big narrative about Ukraine and illegal organ harvesting, like.
Okay, but this the narrative I mentioned here has nothing to do with Ukraine.
Yeah, it failed. It
Yeah, we
missed.
already failed.
It failed. True.
I mean, it identified correctly that it's a disinformation, but its reasoning was flawed.
Yeah. So what's the narrative here? It's organ trafficking okay in care homes in Bihor. I think if I put this
Read the lead a little bit because the lead will tell you more.
which one?
The lead, it's just under the picture.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then also, if you look at the objectives and the main points of our debunking, again, it has no connection to Ukraine.
Yeah, of course, it doesn't have like.
Okay.
I'm 100% sure it just found this huge Ukraine narrative, and it missed mislinked like the narrative of Ukraine with what we gave. Yeah. Yeah, let's give it another try. Let's try to break it some more. Don't have any mercy on the system, please, Cătălin.
Let's see something else. Okay. Let's say the fight against anti-Semitism is just cover up for silencing just a minute. Let's say patriotic views, or just a cover up. Leave it like that. The fight against anti-Semitism is just a cover up.
Let's see. How would the system behave? Okay, so it says that it's part of the narrative certain groups are falsely portrayed as fighting against Nazism. And if we look to the fight against Nazism in Ukraine, handcuff marks are not a sign of torture. A fighter of the brutal neo-Nazi battalion. NATO equated itself into the Nazi regime. So it says that this is disinformation because it's part of this narrative. Certain groups are falsely portrayed as fighting against Nazism.
Okay. So now we have an argument that the system is flawed from some perspective because this narrative, that's why I let it without the nationalism. I'll send you the fake news we covered in Romania. Or for Romania, but this is a huge global narrative that which is partly true, so it's actually a bit nuanced, that Israel is using or some officials in Israel are using anti-Semitism, the pretext of anti-Semitism to justify their policies and to silence critics. So whenever someone is saying that, I don't know, Israel is killing people in Gaza, this means that Israel is coming and saying, oh, these are anti-Semites in order to cover the truth. And this is one of the narratives that it's intensely used in far left, especially far left groups. Some of them are connected to Russia. And the problem is that part of this argument, there are some elements of these arguments that sometimes are truth, but not the general narratives. I mean, people are using this narrative, regimes like Iran or I don't know, extremist groups in the Middle East, and people in Europe on the far left spectrum are also taking these ideas. So it's my point is that this whole matter, it's a lot larger than Ukraine, and in Romania it also has its own specifics, not connected to Ukraine. So the algorithm should look a bit beyond Ukraine when it's doing research.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So you feel like the algorithm is too focused on Ukraine, on
Yes.
Russian war, and it just tries to mash everything into the Russian war, into
Yeah.
the yeah.
The Russian narrative, first of all, the Russian disinformation, fake news, fake narrative campaign um came. It was on its peak, and it was a lot influenced by Russia's campaign against Ukraine, starting with 2014. But it's not limited to that because it boils down to a conflict of perspectives about the world. You have liberal democracies on the one hand, and the authoritarian regimes on the other hand. And it's trying to undermine the basic values of the liberal democracies. Ukraine is just part of the equation. It's part of Russia trying to be an empire, for instance. But this is also connected because, for instance, Russia attacked Ukraine uh, not as they fakely claim when because Ukraine wanted to be part of NATO because that was off the table at that moment. But when a pro-European, pro-EU government came to power, because uh, it's a different model. That means a strong social, civic society, a liberal democracy, and so on and so forth, which works because it brings prosperity. That's what makes the EU attractive. And that's what actually scares the Russian regime. They were against from the early 2000s. They were against the so-called color revolution, which are anti-corruption, pro-reform, pro-EU revolution throughout the former Soviet space. They were proposing another model. So the Russian, beyond Ukraine, Russia's narrative attack, it's against European basic values. So you cannot limit that to. That's why you cannot limit covering the disinformation to the war in Ukraine, especially since you're not dealing only with Russia. Okay, Russia is one major actor, but another actor is China. Another actor is Iran, and so on and so forth. And that's just the state actors, because you have many political groups inside Western democracies that are trying to challenge a certain set of values through this disinformation. Orban did it in Hungary. The alt-right is doing it, or was doing it, and is still doing it in the United States. The far right is doing it throughout Europe, and so on.
Okay, that's very very interesting. Okay, so from what understand from you, like one of the limitations that you feel about the system is that it's too focused on Ukraine and it
Yeah.
needs more data, more narrative. Have
Uh,
you
I don't know.
just from
I'm
testing,
judging
like
from two examples.
yeah,
So
yeah. Do you feel like you've created like a first impression of the system, or would you like to try something else? Or do you think like you have a grasp of the overall capabilities?
let's try for to see if it connects it with Ukraine. Let's try something about a more general non-Ukraine thing. Mm, okay, something concerning climate change.
Let's give it a try. Oh, Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just got cut. I
Yeah.
hope I didn't mess up.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I thought you got
Um,
bored and just left.
no, no, no. Okay, so this is our fake news here.
Okay.
Um, then let's ask him
Yeah.
to see if it connects it with Ukraine. The heat waves are artificial. Uh, let's see what it says on that. And then we can ask are artificial to justify fake narratives about climate change. But let's on the first.
Okay. First, analyze the heat waves artificial. Just as a disclaimer, the system was trained with data until like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, so it does not have like it connected with wave of Russophobia. This is working bad. The heat waves are artificial. Poland is experiencing an artificially manufactured wave of Russophobia. It did not understand what the heat wave is.
Okay. Let's say
Heat waves of hate.
let's give him a general one to see if it connects that with Ukraine. Climate change is a hoax. It should recognize this immediately as a fake.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why? Let's see why.
Because climate change is fabricated and unimportant. Climate change is not such a big concern for citizens. Climate change is a hoax invented by capitalists to reduce people's freedoms. So it puts it under this narrative, which was drawn. So the algorithm learned this narrative from these two fake news. So what it basically does behind the scene is that it looks at a lot of fake news and tries to find the pattern, like the narratives, what connects these dots.
Okay, these two down are definitely fake news. So if it knows that these are fake news, it's reasoning. It's let's say let's see something about heat waves. Uh, uh, let's say the heat waves, something general. Are exaggerated by the media.
How do I spell exaggerated? Okay.
Overblown. Okay.
By the media
To induce panic. Let's say.
Yeah, it did not find any match. Yeah, but this is one thing that the system can do. Yeah, let's give it a try. What it has the ability is that when you put something and it does not find anything specific, so whenever it does not find a disinformation narrative to connect them to, it marks them as true. Okay, but now if we mark this as fake, it is ingesting this new data. So right now, at least in theory, whenever we add a text which has this narrative, from now on, once this is ingested, it will flag any fake news which fall under this narrative. So it has the capacity to learn new things, and this is something that it did not find, and we marked it as fake, and now it's ingesting and updating its algorithm with this new data. But it did not find it.
Okay.
Well, Cătălin, I think I've took a lot of your time. Thank you so much for your time. Tell me, how do you feel about the system? What are its limitations and good parts? How do you feel about it? Honestly.
So it recognizes some things. The ones that are short, that have been covered, there's no problem. For others, it recognizes them, but I'm not sure its reasoning. It's quite okay. And I'm talking about trying to connect everything with Ukraine, which sometimes can be connected, sometimes not. And in some aspects, I think it should crawl a bit more on available information, because this climate change, climate hoax, heat waves things are something that was quite obvious. So it's missing the forest in this case.
Yeah. These are very good points, and indeed the system has these strong limitations, and this crawling and updating in real time is definitely part of the limitations.
But then you have a challenge, because I don't work with maybe I should, with this AI things, but we tested it in our newsroom, and at some point we asked it to do some news. It was a couple of years ago, and it failed to do the news. Let's say stylistically, but this is not a problem. This I'm sure it can easily be handled. But its problem is that in terms of editing, not editing, of selecting the information, it was flawed, because in its so-called news were both fake information and truth information. So that's the worst challenge, because when it's crawling the internet, there's a lot of fake information on the internet, and maybe it's starting the tip to go towards it. Little by little, it will be more fake information on the internet, and if it's just choosing it statistically, then the AI would give you fake information as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. And maybe, I don't know about fake, but about synthetic data or not human information, that would definitely be a big wave of synthetic information.
Yeah, I think a way to go around that would be to give him the sources. I mean, instead of just letting it go in the wild and crawl whatever it finds on the internet, to specify generous number of I don't know, there are thousands of newspapers or tens of thousands of media outlets which are doing their job. There are libraries, books, and so on and so forth, studies, and to tell it to focus on that for a beginning, until it learns to differentiate.
These are very good ideas, and I will write them all in the paper for the next researchers in disinformation and AI to to take your ideas because you are the experts. And one thing that I saw is that there are two little researchers who ask for your opinion as journalists. But thank you, Cătălin. Thanks a lot for your involvement. And yeah, that's it.
My pleasure.